In the 1940s, the Tampa Bay area was a sleepy region trying to recover from the depths of the Depression. Then came the Day of Infamy and World War II.
I had to do what I did. It didn't came the draft board. I was only 16 and a half and my brother was 17, you know. We didn't have to go.
Women were suddenly thrust into non-traditional roles in cockpits, shipyards, and on military bases.
So this woman said to me, Shaw, because they call you by your last name, do you want to be in the Navy or don't you? And I said, I want to be in the Navy.
Black troops toughed it out alongside their white comrades, but racial issues began to boil to the surface in the heat of combat.
General orders came down from General Eisenhower. All black troops, now it's time to join your white comrades to stem this tide. Before we wasn't good enough.
And when they returned home, Tampa Bay, like them, had been forever changed.
You just did plain old infantry slogging and fighting, and that's not pleasant. It's deadly and scary.
Within months of the attack on Pearl Harbor on December 7, 1941, another invasion by thousands of military personnel came to the Tampa Bay area. Recruiting stations were set up on street corners, and men and women lined up to join. Military leaders needed to train massive numbers, and almost every hotel and apartment building in the area was taken for use as barracks. When the hotels were full, troops set up tents in the front yard of St. Petersburg's Vinoy Hotel. They lined up every day to get their meals at the Tramore cafeteria. Army and Air Force personnel drilled in the streets and raised the Stars and Stripes daily in front of the Pinellas County Courthouse in Clearwater.
We're in to win. Turn in your tin and listen to it drunk.
People held tin, newspaper, and rubber drives to collect valuable resources to be used for the war effort. Every man, woman, and child was focused on preparing for war. The good weather and clear skies of the Tampa Bay area made this an ideal place for training. Tampa had MacDill Army Air Base, later MacDill Air Force Base; Drew Field, which is now Tampa International Airport; Henderson Field, which was located near the current Busch Gardens. St. Petersburg had Pinellas Army Airfield, now St. Petersburg Clearwater Airport; Albert Whitted Field, which was used by the Navy and Coast Guard, as was the Bayboro Harbor Training Facility. Mullet Key was used as a gunnery and bombing range. It is now called Fort DeSoto. Lakeland had 3 airfields for training during World War II, which eventually led to Lakeland Municipal Airport. And Sarasota Army Airfield served as an auxiliary base for MacDill and became Sarasota Bradenton International Airport. For many, Tampa Bay was where they learned how to fight.
I got a brother in the infantry, I thought you know.
Probably no Tampa family has served so well as the 7 Vila brothers, who have fought in World War II, Korea, Vietnam, and Desert Storm. Willie and Joe Vila of West Tampa were 16 and 17 when they enlisted in the U.S. Marines just 3 weeks after the bombing of Pearl Harbor. They were pumping gas in West Tampa when they heard about the Japanese attack. Then and there, they made up their minds to join. They told the truth about their ages in Tampa and were turned down. So they went to Orlando, changed their story, and signed up for the Marines.
Right then, I said, I'm going to quit school and I'm going to join the Marine. Just for the hell, you know. We don't know what Marine is nothing, but we like it.
They were shipped off to the Pacific, where they participated in the fighting at Guadalcanal, Okinawa, and numerous other battles. Their commanding officer, General Chesty Puller, had words of advice as they prepared to invade.
Chesty said, I'm going to tell you this, and keep it in your mind. You kill or be killed, because the son of a gun you don't want to kill, his body's looking at you and he's going to shoot you.
The invasion of Guadalcanal left Joe severely wounded. He was shipped to a hospital in Australia, and it would be 6 months before Willie was able to visit his brother, not knowing his condition.
So my brother, when he came, I was drinking a Coke, a bottle of Coke. There used to be a nickel. And he said, oh, you're doing good, and this. And he was happy, to see me.
When the war was over, both brothers returned to Tampa. Willie hopped a streetcar at Howard in Maine and headed back home.
I got up and the guy said, you owe you some money? I said, you done enough, you don't owe us nothing. Anytime you see me driving one of these streetcars, you hop in it, you get a free ride. I said, you done enough.
Tampa's Villa Brothers Park was named in their honor, and a monument was erected on August 3, 2007, for these authentic heroes from the Bay. Captain Ralph Stiles of Sarasota graduated from the U.S. Naval Academy in 1933. He hunted German and Japanese subs during World War II. He was stationed at Pearl Harbor on the morning of the Japanese attack and was just about to report for his Sunday morning duty.
And I was in uniform and eating breakfast and looking out, and I saw this plane come in and just go down into the water. Everybody knew the Japanese were going to attack, but it was an exceptional feat that they had in those days of getting across the Pacific undetected.
Detail, forward, north.
Ralph Stiles eventually went on to become the commander of all U.S. submarine activity on the West Coast and served on the Joint Chiefs of Staff.
For the 52 American submarines lost in World War II.
Each night at sunset, at his home on Siesta Key, he conducts a flag retirement ceremony to honor U.S. veterans of all wars. Everybody in the Bay Area was doing something for the war effort. Able-bodied men who couldn't get into the armed forces formed home guard units. The members of Company B, 5th Battalion, stood guard in front of their headquarters on Tampa's Davis Islands. Nightly blackouts along Florida's coastal cities were enforced to guard against attacks from enemy aircraft and submarines. St. Petersburg and most coastal communities in Florida kept a tight watch. German U-boats sunk ships off Florida's east coast, like this tanker near Hobe Sound. MacDill and Drew airfields in Tampa were the two major military installations in the Bay Area. In addition to being airfields, both MacDill and Drew fields briefly housed German prisoners of war.
Make some more ammunition!
Hollywood came to Tampa during the war to film two movies. Air Force, directed by legendary filmmaker Howard Hawks, was filmed near Drew Field and other locations. Much of the area was still pine and palmetto, making it ideal for showing the Pacific Theater. When the Hollywood bombers with Japanese markings flew over the Gulf, they neglected to tell coastal gunners who fired on the planes. Fortunately, in this case, they missed.
Historians say that the invasion of Normandy was a turning event in world history. Well, we never thought it was a turning event in world history. We just thought it was just a stinking invasion that we had to do, and we wanted to get it done.
D-Day, the Normandy invasion to liberate France and ultimately the continent of Europe, was arguably the most important battle of World War II. Retired U.S. Congressman Sam Gibbons of Tampa was an Army captain in the 101st Airborne Division paratroopers. He was one of the first Allied troops to parachute in the middle of the night into Normandy, 8 hours before the D-Day ground invasion. He and his men used clicking devices to locate each other on the ground. The 24-year-old Army captain and senior officer gathered his men and immediately liberated a French town.
Like in Normandy, we didn't land behind the German lines, we just landed right on top of them. We landed behind the beaches, but there were plenty of Germans back there where we were.
Gibbons and his men secured 3 miles of the main supply highway on D-Day, keeping the roads open for ground forces. Later in the war, he fought in deep snow and bitter temperatures at the Battle of the Bulge, where he spent Christmas of 1944 bombarded and surrounded until General Patton's Third Army broke through. Eventually, he was part of the assault on Hitler's headquarters at Berchtesgaden, also called Eagle's Nest. Serving in General Patton's Third Army, 2nd Lieutenant John Germany of Plant City was also among the first ground troops to capture Hitler's mountain retreat and headquarters. 2nd Lieutenant Germany had a front row seat in witnessing some of the worst parts of Hitler's extermination campaign. He helped liberate prisoners from a concentration camp in Czechoslovakia.
The bodies were still there, the ovens were still warm, and when we liberated it, the ones that could walk went after the guards and tried to shove them in the oven themselves.
Tampa's Terry Lyle was a college student at the University of Florida in 1941. After the Japanese bombed Pearl Harbor, he enlisted in the Army and served in Germany and Austria until the end of World War II. His first assignment was mule packer basic training, useful for fighting in the mountains of Italy and Austria.
In order to be a mule packer, so to speak, you had to be over 5 feet 10 and have good arches because you had to lift 75 millimeter howitzers, the parts of the 75 millimeter howitzers, up onto the mules' backs. It was a different experience for an old city boy.
St. Petersburg's Gus Stavros served as a corporal in Patton's Third Army, marching across Western Europe and driving back Hitler's German forces. He served through 3 campaigns in northern France, the Ardennes, and the Rhineland. He landed on Utah Beach 50 days after D-Day, and during the Battle of Nennig in France, faced a German attack in the early hours of the morning.
We were told on this date, January the 19th, after being surrounded for about 5 or 6 days without any food or any help at all, we were there, 36 men in this open area. We were told that at 4 in the morning, on January 19th, we would be hit by 400 of the enemy. And just like clockwork, at 4 o'clock in the morning, there were 400 Germans who attacked this 36 men in our platoon. So 14 hours later, the remaining 200 Germans surrendered.
Stavros was one of 5 men chosen to escort the German prisoners. Within seconds, the group was hit by a mortar shell, killing 1 and wounding 3 of the Americans, including Stavros. He was taken to a MASH unit, sent to England, and to several hospitals in the States.
I was wounded just before my 20th birthday. The captain said, "You've done all you can for your country. Now your country will take care of you for the few years you have left in your life." That was 62 years ago.
We're gonna tear Hitler down. We're gonna tear Hitler down. We're gonna tear Hitler down someday.
Throughout World War II, the armed forces were segregated. Black troops were separated from white troops. Army Corporal Moses Darby of Tampa helped supply Allied forces in Europe during the Normandy invasion, the Battle of the Bulge, and other fierce fighting. Black servicemen in the famous Red Ball Express kept trucks and supplies coming 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and the all-black 761st Tank Battalion was vital in helping General Patton push back the Germans at the Battle of the Bulge.
Patton sent for them, especially himself. See, a lot of people don't, you know, Patton didn't get along with a lot of the other generals, but he was a good soldier, put it that way. And if he want to win a war, he gonna fight it his way.
Tampa's Charles Johnson served in the Army and fought German forces in Italy. One day, his infantry unit was ordered to contact the enemy so the Allies could determine their location. When they did, both sides started shooting.
So I never will forget, I was on the front line, and we went into a house, and the house was built where you could go right straight through, front door to the back door. And two of us, we went right straight through and went on the back door. And they hit that house about 5 times with shell. They thought we was going to go in there and stay in there. And that saved our lives right there.
The late Nasby Wynn of Sarasota was one of 994 black pilots who made aviation history training at Tuskegee Airfield in Alabama during World War II. A segregated military had rarely allowed blacks to fly aircraft, but the Tuskegee Airmen served with honor in raids over Europe and North Africa.
And I feel good that I was part of it, that I not only participated in doing something to equalize the hate. We were normal, we were human beings, we were just as any other.
It's been said the Tuskegee Airmen faced 2 wars, one against an enemy overseas and one against bigotry at home. In March of 2007, the Tuskegee pilots were awarded long overdue Congressional Gold Medals for their brave duty and service to their country. Tampa's Braulio Alonso was among the first men to be inducted into the Army for a 6-month stint in October of 1941. After the bombing of Pearl Harbor in December of that year, those 6 months turned into 4 years. Captain Alonso joined the 328th Field Artillery Battalion, with which he served in North Africa and Italy. It was also involved in the liberation of Rome. He remembers a moment of German surrender at the end of a battle.
The black troops were brought in, and the Germans, there were maybe 150 or so in that one, surrendered to the black troops. I was amazed. I really thought that was great, and all of our people there thought it was great.
The wartime effort pumped millions of dollars into the local economy and helped pull Tampa Bay residents out of the hardships of the Depression. Much of the labor for the U.S. war machine was supplied by women. Nowhere was that more evident than in the Tampa shipyards. Tampa Shipbuilding couldn't hire enough people and went from employing 1,350 in 1940 to over 16,000 in 1944. Women pilots served during the war in 2 groups, the Women's Auxiliary Ferrying Squadron and the Women Air Service Pilots, or WASPs. When the war began, St. Petersburg's Francis Stavros volunteered for the Navy Waves, which stood for Women Accepted for Volunteer Emergency Service. At the Jacksonville Naval Air Station, Francis served as a librarian in the Aviation Supply Officers School. All her male family members and cousins were serving in the military, but when she told her family she wanted to enlist, not all were pleased.
Everybody was against it except my father. And I told my dad I was going to go one way or another. I had made up my mind that we were needed, and I felt that it was, I had to go.
Tampa's Evelyn Johnson was one of the first black women to serve in the Women's Army Corps, or WACS. Her all-black unit served in England and France, sorting the all-important males sent to the troops. She found the Europeans much more accepting of blacks than Americans.
We were treated royally in England. We were treated royally in France, anywhere we went. There was never any show of dislike of our skin. Well, the feeling was I just could not understand why But white America could not treat us the same as the white Europeans did.
I'm waiting for my life to begin, waiting for the train to come in.
Victory in Europe over Germany occurred on May 8, 1945. My dad broke the news on CBS Radio.
4:25 Eastern Wartime, Bob Hite reporting. In a little over an hour and a half, the last German forces in Europe will lay down their arms and the fighting will be officially over. The end of nearly 6 years of war for many Allied troops.
On August 6th and 9th, 1945, the U.S. dropped atomic bombs on the Japanese cities of Hiroshima and Nagasaki. Faced with this powerful new weapon, Japanese leaders announced their total surrender on August 15th. World War II was over. Jubilation swept the nation and the Bay Area. Soldiers lined up outside the offices of the St. Petersburg Times to read the news. Navy nurses held up copies of papers showing the beginning and ending of the war. In Tampa, citizens crowded Franklin Street, Ybor City, and West Tampa and blew off steam into the early morning hours. World War II was the single most important event in Tampa Bay history. Its aftermath brought new prosperity, and hundreds of thousands of new residents chose to live the Florida lifestyle. President Truman integrated the armed forces, and the civil rights movement began challenging racist laws and customs. The end of World War II gave people a chance for a new beginning, a new start in a Tampa Bay area that was forever changed.
I never in my life see people so nice with the servicemen, especially with the Marine. We were wounded and they treated us so good. They will bring me pie, a whole pie. They bring me everything they had. God, man, it made me cry. Jeez.
It's been a very good life. There's been down periods, but the up periods have way outweigh the down, and I contribute 60 to 70% to my being at Tuskegee Airmen.
You know, war is not nice, it's not right, it's wrong. It's necessary at times, as it was in World War II with a man who wanted to conquer the world. But those who serve, we should appreciate them and thank them and bless them.
America and her allies, of course, eventually won the war, but at a terrible cost. Over 400,000 Americans, 3,000 of them Floridians, died during World War II. Many who survived are now buried here at the Florida National Cemetery in Bushnell, and more are being interred every day. We've seen and heard from some of the veterans of the Bay Area, and to a person, they all agree that it's their comrades who didn't come back who are the true heroes from the Bay.
God bless America, land that I love. Stand beside her and guide her through the night with the light from above. From the mountains to the prairies, to the